and go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar featuring a case from intake to follow up. We have a special group of presenters today to do things a little bit differently. So what we're going to do is to start off, and again, thank you for your patience. We're getting everything organized behind the scenes and want to make sure we had it right for you. So let's take a look at our agenda first, and then we'll get started. Next slide, please. Okay, again, welcome. We're so excited to have you here today. We're so excited about all the great work you've been doing with RC Care. We understand we have lots of questions around RC Care and the intake process, and we hope today's webinar will help you answer a lot of those questions. So briefly, I want to go through some of the housekeeping. Please mute your mics, and we will allow for time at the end of the program for your questions. We've allowed enough time for that. And let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay, again, here's our housekeeping. We'll have a chat box for questions. And if you don't have any questions, that's okay. But we hope to get a lot of feedback from you today and be able to answer those questions. Next slide. So today we have a host of presenters from across the country. We have role plays and volunteers and staffs that'll be presenting today. I'd like to introduce Christina King. She's a volunteer. She's a client care manager with the Client Care Center. We also have Alan McKinney from Eastern North Carolina region, who's a volunteer. He's a DAT supervisor as well as a logistician. We also have Kelly Farrell, DPM from Nashville, Tennessee. She will be working with our role play team to show you the ins and outs of client intake. And myself, my name is Liz Mays. I've been a regional DAT program lead, and I'm currently a volunteer with Response in supporting our regional DAT programs. And finally, we have Alicia Guajardo, Senior Associate from Regional Response Program. And we're also grateful to have Leonard Levy, the Manager for Recovery Services, on today. Next slide. So just wanted to share pictures of our team today. These will be your presenters. We also have presenters on the next slide, please. And there you see our national headquarters staff, all ready to go for today's presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, so before I turn it over to Alicia Guajardo to talk about resources and tools, again, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I hope you find this presentation meaningful and are able to take something back with you as you move forward. So thank you. And Alicia, take it away.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Liz, and welcome everyone to the office hours today. This slide is really just to highlight some of the many tools and resources that you're well acquainted with. So it's certainly not an exhaustive list. The main place, as you know, to go now for job tools related to RC Care is that RC Care Toolkit. And within that toolkit, you're going to find links to all the various trainings and who takes what training. Some of the other things, again, just to highlight for this audience, are things like the price guide that is available to you as a job tool. We have the DAT intake hotline job tool. We also have on that toolkit things like capturing DDA for virtual responses and some tips for how to do that when the responders are not going on scene due to the COVID protocols. And speaking of COVID, the COVID-19 DAT response tactics was updated to incorporate RC Care, the use of RC Care and the client care program. So that job tool is on the toolkit as well. And then we have a number of videos that I hope you all are familiar with and have taken time to view. One of them, for example, is the RC Care mobile intake demo. So this is essentially like a silent movie. There's no narration, but it shows you what the intake process looks like on a mobile device. So if you are using your smartphone, it will really show you how, what that experience looks like. And then finally, a couple of others that you should know very well are the intake process job tool that guides you through the steps of the process. And one of the things available as well is that summary of client assistance. Next slide. So this is, again, just not to go over every single thing, but this is just a snapshot of the job tool that you're familiar with for the DAT intake hotline. That is for our DAT responders. On the first page of that job tool, it does outline who to call for different matters. And so your RAST contact, that regional application specialist team lead, or otherwise known as the RAST, is there. It's not a 24/7 point of contact, but that is the person that's going to be able to answer a lot of your questions related to RC Care, the launch and the rollout of that, maybe some of the questions that you have about the system, about training. They can point you in the right direction to make sure you know what there is and where to find it. And then, of course, as always, the IT help desk, which is 24/7, 365, is if you encounter system-related issues. It might be something around accessing the system, or it might be something that is more a behavior of when you're using the system. And then finally, the intake hotline is that 833 toll-free number, which is available 24/7, 365. And again, broadly speaking, that is for situations where the responder may not have reliable or any internet connectivity and be able to do the intake. Or maybe you don't have the smart technology, that smartphone, to be able to do it, then an agent can do the intake on your behalf, which means that when you call, that would be what you ask for, and probably one of the very first questions they're going to ask you is for your volunteer connection number or your email, because it's sort of like that second responder token that you all know now. But in this case, because again, they're doing it on your behalf, they will need to have that information from you in order to do that. And then the other thing is, of course, around issue resolutions related to particularly around payment issues. So if we go to the next screen, please. The second page of that job tool outlines in a little bit more detail around the type of assistance. So again, that connectivity or technology issue, but also things around payment related issues, as well as some of those other types of things. Since this job tool was created, some of the things that have happened, which makes you perhaps a little bit less reliant on the hotline, is there are some things now that a caseworker or a casework supervisor, for example, can do around voiding an EFT, helping with some of those corrections, and so there are people in your region who can support you with some of those pieces. But again, the hotline remains available for you. And then just maybe one other thing is just to reiterate that the intake hotline is intended for for support to the DAT responders during that initial intake process. Because of the type of permissions that the agents have, there are things that they won't be able to do. For example, if immediate assistance has already been provided, but a caseworker needs some assistance for supplemental assistance or something like that, some additional system assistance, that is not something that they're going to be able to do. So just keep in mind that it really is at this point intended for that initial kind of that first encounter with the client and being able to get that immediate assistance to them. Next slide. And with this, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Leonard.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Leonard Levy, Manager of Recovery Services. In today's discussion, we really wanted to describe, and I'm not going to go through every piece of this, but really just wanted to frame and describe the financial assistance disbursement options. You know, as we moved from our old system and our old program into RC Care and the Client Care program, one of the things that we were really excited about was the ability to expand our financial assistance options. And so really providing services that were a lot more relevant for our clients who may be used to e-commerce and electronic banking transactions. And so we're really excited to add those to our repertoire of financial assistance, again, just to provide that relevant service. But we know that not everyone is familiar with these different financial assistance options. And, you know, some of these were new to me as we rolled them out as well. And so while it's really it's really up to the client to choose their financial assistance options, perhaps we understand that the DATs and the caseworkers and the responders, they also need to understand what these financial assistance options are to kind of help the client make an informed decision. So just kind of want to walk through just a couple of these with you and just hit some highlights. You know, there are some nuances to each of these financial assistance options that might be best for the client, or, you know, it might not be the best option for the client, depending on you know, what they've got, what they need, how quickly they can access their funds, things like that. But one of the underlying principles of expanding the financial assistance options was to ensure that we still had the trustee client assistance card. And so that's always a viable option for our clients. We can use the client assistance card, so there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with using it. If a client chooses that over any other financial assistance option, it's absolutely okay. But as we thought about some additional financial assistance options, just really thinking about MasterCard Send for our clients who you know, who have a bank account, they're used to, you know, working with their debit card and doing all of their transactions with a debit card. You know, MasterCard Send might be a great option for them, and it's okay if they don't, or even if they have that and they don't want to do that, it is absolutely okay. We've got a couple of other options. We've got Walmart Direct to Cash, where a client can choose the Walmart Direct to Cash. They can go to the customer service desk at Walmart and they can provide some information through the Walmart Direct to Cash program that we actually send to them that will allow them to pick up their assistance there at Walmart in cash. Just you know, with an ID card and the Walmart transaction code, you know, whatever that number is, they should be able to access their financial assistance, and, you know, available at any Walmart as long as the customer service desk is open, then they should be able to access their financial assistance through that. For those that are familiar with PayPal accounts, if they've got an active PayPal, a lot of people use PayPal a lot. You know, I use PayPal a little bit for other things, and you know, PayPal works great so for those that are familiar with it, you know, PayPal might be a great option. But again, doesn't have to be. It's okay if someone doesn't have PayPal, they really don't understand it, they don't know what it is absolutely okay. And then Zelle is just another way of providing financial assistance with electronic funds transfer. It's just a mechanism for people who have a Zelle account that's tied to a bank account, and most banks and credit unions, you know, are Zelle friendly. But some aren't. Some, you know, small local banks may not be Zelle friendly, but again, that's okay. And what you can see here is a variety of financial assistance options. So, you know, as the DATs and the responders, as y'all talk to the client, when you really get down to that financial assistance piece, if the client has any questions, maybe we can answer and provide the client the ability to make an informed decision. We're not going to steer them towards a particular direction. If they're eligible for EFT and that's the direction they want to go, great. If they're eligible for EFT, but they just don't trust it, they just don't feel like that's the right thing for them, it's okay to go with a client assistance card. And then if for some reason the client assistance card is the only option for that client, for whatever reason, it is absolutely okay. So just wanted to spend a little bit of time. You can access a lot of this information on the RC Care Toolkit. I think we've got a financial assistance disbursement, actually a standalone form that really talks about this. We've also embedded a lot of this information into our into some of our job tools for intake as well as some of our recovery planning and other job tools. So we've got a lot of information out there. I just recommend that the DATs and the caseworkers, the responders get familiar with this. And again, we're not going to steer a client. It is completely up to them which method they want to choose based on what's appropriate for them, because we want to make sure that our financial assistance is relevant for our clients. But if they do, if they don't really understand the difference between Zelle and PayPal, perhaps, we can answer a couple of questions to help the client make an informed decision. So that's really all I've got on the financial assistance disbursement options today.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Big thanks to Kristen Manuel in Tennessee region who put together these next few slides for us. These are some screenshots of based on which payment option the client selects. These are just two of the options, mainly the main two being MasterCard Send and Walmart. What are the things the client is going to see? And that can really help the DAT responder explain to the client what to expect, right? So the client will receive a message through email or text saying that their application has been processed and requires their action. So they can access their account. And next slide. They'll then have the option to choose which of the payment options they'd like for their financial assistance. Leonard just spent a lot of time walking through these, so I won't do that again, but we will go to the next slide and see what it looks like when they choose that first MasterCard Send option or receiving funds on my debit card. So this is the next screen that they would get. If they chose that option, they would select this payment method. It does tell them a bit more about it. One thing that was on the slide that Leonard spoke to was for any of these options where we're going to send money directly to their bank account, if their bank account is overdrawn, they may not want to choose that option. And that can be a very difficult thing to, not really discuss with the client, but it may just be something that we want to make sort of standard practice as we tell clients about these options. Because if they're overdrawn on their account, it will pull their Red Cross funds to help pay any fees that they're overdrawn on before allowing them access to those funds. So obviously, we want these funds to be used for their disaster-related needs, and so that's totally up to the client what they choose. But that's just something to be mindful of, is that if they are overdrawn on their bank account, then on their debit account, then the funds will go towards any overdue fees first. Next slide. And so again, they say they choose the debit card option. They just enter their debit card expiration information and hit submit. Next slide. Similarly, if they chose Walmart direct to cash, they can select the payment method. And next slide. And again, they would input the information, the delivery method, how they're going to receive that information for their direct to cash payment. The key thing to keep in mind with this payment method is that the information that the client gives us needs to match exactly what is on their ID. So if their passport has their full legal name, that's what we need to put in our system as well. That's just something to be mindful of when they're choosing their payment option. All right, next slide. And so same thing here. You'll see the confirmation, and they've even included a link here where you can see your nearest location for picking up the direct to cash. All right. Next slide. So I think it is now my turn to take over Thanks very much. I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. I really appreciate Alan, who's going to pretend to be the client today. And Christina is going to pause, and I'm going to be doing the intake. Christina is going to be pausing every so often and coaching me on things that they have found from the client care center side of things that either hang up a case or things that we need to be mindful of. So next up, all right, and so I think first up we have Mr. Carlton. So Alan is going to be playing a client for us, Mr. Carlton. So I'm going to start the client intake, and just the nice thing about this system is that it does even guide us in how to get the conversation started. So Mr. Carlton, my name is Kelly Farrell. I'm with the American Red Cross. I'm so sorry to hear that you've had a home fire this evening. Can you tell me what happened?
Oh, yes. My wife and I had already gone to sleep in our house. We normally have our 3 grandchildren here, but last night they just happened to be away. I was awoken by the smoke alarm about 11 o'clock. I woke up, I woke my wife up and had her go out the back door from the bedroom as smoke was already filling the room. I grabbed a towel and tried to open the bedroom door, and I saw the kitchen completely in a blaze. Smoke everywhere. I turned back, grabbed my phone, wallet, and keys from the nightstand, and ran out the back to join my wife.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm glad you're all right.
Yeah, but I've lost my glasses, and my wife has lost her medications also.
Okay. Well, that's definitely something that our health services nurses can help with. So I'm going to collect some information from you if that's okay. You may need a form of photo identification to verify your address and identity. Do you have a photo ID that would have your address on it as well?
Oh, yes, I got my wallet out of the house.
Perfect. All right. And so, Mr. Carlton, can you spell your first and last name for me, please?
James, James, Carlton, Carlton.
And your birthday?
August 8th, 1941.
Perfect. And can you confirm the zip code for me of your address?
85260.
And that address where you had the home fire?
10143 East Clinton Street.
All right, so I'm going to pause just for a second from my interview with Mr. Carlton to point out that as we started typing, it is going to try to find the relevant address here in the system based on the zip code that we entered, which is why it's helpful to enter that first. So we can select the zip code and it is checked for the address. If you had an apartment number, there is a field here to enter that apartment number. We do not, so we're going to keep going, and it auto-filled the county for us as well. If you had an interesting case, sometimes we have people who are living in a tent or maybe in an RV at a non-traditional address. This would be the box that we would check to let the system know that we chose the closest address that we could. Going back up here, if, for example, maybe we had a reason to have a non-resident primary client, maybe a 17-year-old was at home and their parents are out of town or something, and we needed to have a non-resident primary client listed on the case, we would check this box here.
So Kelly, we're going to take a pause real quick.
Sure.
It's just really important that Mr. Carlton was very clear in how he spelt his name. Not all of our clients will spell their names. It's very important that we don't make any typos, and just as you scroll down, you will confirm, but a lot of responders are just clicking that confirm button and not necessarily confirming that information. The typos are what holds up our cases.
Yeah, absolutely. So great segue. Mr. Carlton, I do have your name as James, James, Carlton, Carlton. Your birthday, August 8th, 1941, and the address as 10143 East Clinton Street, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85260. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And that's a great practice, Kelly, that you did, that you repeated, you spelled everything. You let the client hear what you were saying, especially in this virtual environment. We're not face to face, so it's very important to spell back and even use the phonetic alphabet. Make sure if it's a C or a D or an S.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Carlton, do you have an email address that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, no, I'm old. I just have a cell phone for
Okay.
everything I do.
No problem. And could I get that cell phone number?
919-603-7135.
Again, Kelly, let's take pause. In this field right here, it says you can enter an email or a phone number or a phone number. I think some of the responders think both have to be in there, and they do not. Either an email or a phone number, or you can put both.
Yeah, and as we started, there was a red asterisk here beside email, but when I went in and typed phone number, that asterisk went away because, as Christina said, we only have to have one of the two fields. We don't necessarily have to have both.
And it's very important not to put any false information in. This is the part of the system that runs through GIAC, and this is where it will, again, hold up payment if there's any false or incorrect information put in.
And so, Mr. Carlton, is this a mobile phone?
Yes, it is. Cell phone.
And can it receive text messages?
Yes, it can.
And do you have access to the internet on that cell phone?
Yes, I do.
That's really helpful to know because, and I'll pause again. So that's really helpful because if the client's phone doesn't have mobile data or doesn't have the internet, they will receive the initial text with their case number, but they won't receive any EFT payment links unless they are on mobile data or have access to Wi-Fi. So that's just something to keep in mind, that it will send the initial text, but it won't send any EFT option. And so, Mr. Carlton, would you prefer phone call, email, or text when we follow up with you?
Phone call.
And is there any good or bad time for us to give you a call?
I'm retired, usually before 10 p.m.
Absolutely do that. A caseworker will be following up with you in the next couple of days, and so we'll be sure to let them know that. So this section of the intake, because we're in the test environment and we've used this client before, it's pulling up any previous instance of the client in RC Care. So it's possible, and you'll see we have some previous clients in here associated with this address. And so if any of the information is relevant or matches, we can select the client. Maybe we've had a case open for them before, maybe they had an SAF case or something, and that client exists for us already. In this case, we'll just confirm we want to create a new client. And again, we're at the point where we need to confirm the information. Not only is this really important for the client receiving their EFT payment option, but it's also obviously important for our caseworkers being able to follow up with the client. So we do want to really clarify. Mr. Carlton, I do have your phone number is 919-603-7135. It is a mobile phone that can receive text messages and has the internet, and that you prefer a phone call. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Great.
Again, we're going to pause, Kelly, and just like you said before, it is very important. Any typo, especially with that phone number and or email address, that's how they get the EFT link. And if that's incorrect, that again holds up payment.
And if a previous event has been created for the address, the system will let us know and ask if we want to select that existing event. So if we had a multifamily fire, for example, we had created the event and we entered the address in for the next client in that multifamily event, it would allow us to go ahead and select the existing event. Because I went through this yesterday, I'm going to say that we need to create a new event. This is a different fire. So we'll select the day as today. We'll select the type of event as single family fire. If your chapter, region, or DAT response area is using this territory field, you can absolutely enter it here. If maybe the Maricopa County has their own DAT territory, you can enter that there, and they use that for reporting. So your region and chapter will tell you what to input into this field. All right, so this is not something that I confirm with the client necessarily, except that the event date is correct. So we are going to confirm that this happened, today, and use that to create this event. And so, Mr. Carlton, you mentioned that you had your wife with you and that you have 3 grandchildren who are normally living with you. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Kelly, at this point, we want to make sure that we do not re-enter the primary client. This is just additional household members.
Good catch. Thank you. So number of additional household members. And I'll also point out that we do have a case number listed up here. You'll start seeing the case number at the top of the screen, but keep in mind, until we get to the end of the intake, the case has not been created yet. It hasn't gone through, nothing has happened yet. So this case number will only truly exist in the system once we have submitted the case. And so, Mr. Carlton, did you say that your wife's name was Francis?
Yes, it is. Francis.
Perfect. Thank you. And her birthday?
Her birthday is December 3rd, 1944.
And since he told me, I will go ahead and pre-populate this. Is Francis retired military or affiliated with the military in any way?
No.
And you mentioned 3 grandchildren. Could I also get their names and dates of birth?
The first one is Tricia, Tricia Carlton.
Birthday?
Her date of birth is June 13th, 2004.
And your next grandchild?
That's Molly Carlton, Molly Carlton.
And her date of birth?
April 12th, 2007.
And your last grandchild?
That would be Clint Barrett, Clint Barrett.
And his birthday?
That would be January 12th, 2018.
Great. Okay, so Mr. Carlton, I am going to confirm all of that information again. So your wife, Frances Carlton, Francis, and her birth date is December 3rd, 1944. Your grandchildren, Tricia, born June 13th, 2004, Molly, born April 12th, 2007, and Clint Barrett, born January 12th, 2018. Is that all correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, and Mr. Carlton, were you or any of your members of your family injured at all during the fire?
No injuries.
That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. And are you both doing okay? We do have disaster counselors who are available to talk to you if you or your wife maybe are struggling with the fire.
No.
Okay.
We're doing pretty well right now.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. That's available to you anytime as well. A caseworker is going to follow up with you, and if you decide later that you'd like to speak with someone about that or your spiritual care needs, you can always let us know, and we're happy to connect you with them. Okay.
All right.
All right. And Mr. Carlton, you did mention that you lost your glasses.
That's correct.
And you said your wife lost her medication as well.
That's also true.
All right.
Kelly,
We'll have. Yes.
We're going to take a pause. He mentioned he lost his glasses, but at this point, as a DAT responder, we will not be entering a VSP voucher. We will wait and enter that when the VSP voucher is available with the number, the reference number.
Correct, and we'll get to that screen in just a second. It'll be an option for us, and we'll reiterate that again as well. Okay, and so this is a screen where, you know, say we were not in a COVID environment and we were on scene, maybe providing comfort kits to James and his wife Frances. Maybe we provided bottled water. Maybe we left him with a couple of Mickeys for the grandkids, or other children's items. We could list all of those here. As Christina mentioned, you know, most of the time our DAT responders are not the ones entering that VSP service certificate. If your region does that and you have them on your person and you are truly issuing that VSP certificate at the time and have the certificate number, you can add the VSP service here. If you had gift cards in your chapter or region that you were giving out to DAT clients, you can enter those services here as well. But again, since we're not issuing that right now, we are not going to add the VSP service. Our client is not currently in a Red Cross or partner managed shelter, so we're going to say no. And this is the portion of intake where we could go back and reset if we needed to just say, you know what, this was a crazy, chaotic scene and none of this is accurate anymore. We can reset, otherwise we're going to proceed. And so, unfortunately, I'm not speaking to Mr. Carlton right now. The GIAC did not verify his ID and address, so we'll need to confirm his ID and address. We also need to confirm damage. So we're going to proceed. Now, this is where we get into the number of responders who are confirming the damage and the number of responders who are confirming that ID and address. So we talk about this a bit in one of the videos that we put together. This could be virtually, right? In a virtual environment, if we confirmed the damage via live video chat in a three-way call, we could enter two Red Cross responders, you know, confirm the damage via live video chat. Or if we are out of COVID and back to in-person responses, perhaps we're both on scene, or perhaps we got this information directly from the emergency management official or the fire department, but both Red Cross responders would have had to receive that information directly. One Red Cross responder didn't tell the other. Similarly, how many responders confirmed ID and address? It could be that one Red Cross responder confirmed the damage from the fire department and the other Red Cross responder went to the scene to confirm the ID and address and damage. So this could be 2 and 1, could be 2 and 2. We really don't want either of these fields to ever be 0. If 0 responders confirmed damage or confirmed ID and address, payment will not go through until those issues are resolved. So as much as possible, we want to have 2 responders on a case. And if that is not possible, we really want to make sure that it's just never 0. So here, I'm going to enter my second responder. And for these purposes, I'm going to say that Rebecca Pittman is my second responder. And we'll say that in this scenario, Rebecca and I were able to either be on scene and video and see the damage visually in person, or we can say that we video chatted with the client and the fire department who confirmed the damage and confirmed the ID and address. All right. And again, this is where we would go through and confirm ID and approve. So Mr. Carlton, I believe you said you had your wallet. So did you say you had your driver's license with you that had your ID?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And again, we're going to assume that we saw this either on video chat or in person. So I'm going to approve these documents. And then similarly, driver's license, we have to hit approve. And then based on the damage described by the fire department, which included the kitchen being destroyed, the bedroom being destroyed, we're gonna classify this as major, that there are gonna need to be major repairs made before the client's able to get back in. So point of contact, this field in this pop-up box, this is where we're gonna document how we confirmed the damage. The important thing to remember about the point of contact field is we only use that field for the other Red Cross responder. If only one responder confirmed the damage, we would leave this field blank and we would add notes about how that damage was documented. Since I had a second responder, I'm going to input their information here, and I'm still going to add notes about how the damage was confirmed. So for this, we'll say Scottsdale Fire Department Chief Reardon confirmed the damage to both Rebecca video chat. Damage to the home is extensive and will need major repairs. Chief Reardon badge number, if you have it, phone number, we'll say we'll hit save. We'll also then hit approve. It's really important that we hit approve on any of these items that require approval. If we don't hit approve, the system doesn't register it, right? So it doesn't matter that we selected any of these items. If we don't hit approve, they don't actually go into the system. So it's very, very important. And you'll see that once I've hit approve, now it's grayed out and says approved. So next, because I had my second responder, the second responder can either give me their security token and I can do approvals on their behalf, or the second responder can go into RC Care, go to My Actions, and these same confirmations will be pending their approval in My Actions. In this scenario, I'm going to say that my responder gave me their security token. Let's see. I'm not sure why it's not going.
That's the case number, Kelly.
Thank you. All right, so my responder sent me their security token, and now these subsequent approvals are allowing me to approve on Rebecca's behalf. So I've already selected how we classified those confirmations. All I have to do now is hit approve as if I am Rebecca. So now, simple as that, we have 2 Red Cross responders who've confirmed that information. All right, and Mr. Carlton, do you speak any languages other than English in your household?
No.
Okay. And do you identify as male?
Yes, I do.
And are you active duty military, in the reserves, a veteran, anything?
No.
Okay. All right, and do you have an alternate contact person in case we have trouble reaching you on your cell phone?
That would be my wife's.
Okay, and could I get Francis's cell phone number?
480-553-9181.
Okay, so that was 480-553-9181. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, Mr. Carlton, the American Red Cross does respect your privacy, and we want to honor your preferences about how your information is used. We're able to better serve you if we can share your information with other organizations that can provide services to support your recovery. There are 3 information sharing options. I'll explain each one and then ask whether you wish to choose that option. You may choose 1, 2, or all 3, or you may choose to decline any of the sharing of your information. I will document your choices and we will follow your instructions unless there are special circumstances where we need to use your information, such as a legal or safety issue. If you choose general sharing, we may share your information with any person or organization that may be able to support your recovery. This includes other nonprofit organizations, your landlord, or your insurance company, but does not include the government. Would you like to share that way?
Yes, I would.
Great. And because you did have medication lost in the fire, it would be helpful if we could get your permission to share your information with medical providers and pharmacies.
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yes.
And the last option is information sharing with government agencies. So if you chose this option, we might share your information with local, state, or federal agencies and the programs they administer. Would you like to share your information that way?
Yes.
Okay. And lastly, I do need to confirm that all of the information you've provided through this point is true, complete, and accurate.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we do have you qualified for financial assistance today, Mr. Carlton. So I do need to ask, do you accept financial assistance from the American Red Cross today?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So the amount approved is $800.
Oh, thank you. That's going to help pay the deductibles.
Yeah, go ahead, Christina.
At this point, it's very important to remember that you have to click that yes so they can receive financial assistance. And this is a good point to look at the amount approved and make sure that that amount matches up with the household number, the numbers.
Sure. And thank you for calling that out. So as we all know, 1 through 4 family members would be approved for $500, and because Mr. Carlton and his wife have 3 grandchildren that normally live with them, the 5 of them were qualified for $800. So at this point, I won't spend a lot of time in this since Leonard did a great job of reviewing them, but this is a great opportunity where you could use these info icons and explain to the client what each of these options means. And because he had a smartphone that accepted text messages and had access to the internet, he is able to do one of these options, but as Leonard pointed out, he doesn't have to. So if he would like to use one of these options, we would select yes. If no, then CAC would be our option here, and we would have the option to issue a CAC card and not load funds and later call the DAT intake hotline. If we wanted to do that, we would enter the proxy number here as we normally would, and that would save the proxy number in the system, but it would not be active until we delivered the card to the client and called the DAT intake hotline to activate. For this, we'll say that one of these options does work for James. And Mr. Carlton, you said you did want to use, let's say, MasterCard Send?
That's fine.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and submit your case here, and you'll start receiving some follow-up text messages and emails. And the first will include.
Oh, I got it already.
Oh, wow, that's great. So
I
it's
got 2 of them. I got two links here. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Oh, one of them's in English and one's in Spanish.
That's great news. So the first should be a summary that I'll provide to you here as well in case you'd like to write it down of your case number. And then the second should be a text including a link where you can choose the payment option that you'd like to select for those payment options that we just went over.
Yes.
All right. And so I'll point out that not for Mr. Carlton, but you know, I think one thing that they've learned in this process is sometimes we hang up the phone with the client at this point and aren't able to know that they didn't get that text, or they're having trouble with this navigating this process in some way. And so this would be a good opportunity just to make sure that they're at least getting that first message and things are on their way for him to move on and select his payment. If there were a need to escalate the case, you would select here, but that is not necessarily necessary. So I'm going to make note of my case number because there are a couple of things I need to do in the follow-up section. But for now, I'm just going to thank Mr. Carlton for his time. Let him know that a caseworker will be following up with him, as well as someone from health services who will help him get help Frances get her medications replaced, and see if there's anything else that I can do or questions I can answer for now.
Kelly, again, I'd like to point out it's really important for the DAT responders to make sure that that client received that payment link. And if those clients have any questions or concerns, just to be familiar with the payment, the EFT options. That's a lot of the phone calls that we get at the Client Care Center is for whatever reason maybe the client didn't get their KBA questions correct and then the case was stalled and they don't know where to go with that. So I think it's a good practice for our responders to confirm that they got the payment link and ask them if they have any questions or concerns.
Absolutely. And so for now, let's say thank you, Mr. Carlton, so much for your time. I am going to pretend that we are now off the phone with Mr. Carlton, and I am taking care of a couple of things here in the system. So because this was a virtual response, I do need to go down to the virtual response section, which is right here under eligibility. And I'm going to check the virtual response box. I'm also going to make note that, I think the thing that our DAT responders have missed a lot is the opportunity to add case notes in that case narrative. That does still exist. If you were to go back into the case, you would see on the right-hand side that there is a case comment section. And so if we want to write a comment for the case, we can write here that Mr. Carlton lost his glasses and his wife, Frances, medications, referral made by DAT SV to DHS. 3 grandchildren were not at home, but will be returning tomorrow. Anything else that we felt necessary that we needed to add to the case notes, we can do that here. And now it's saved in the system. So because I'm in a test environment, it's saying this is my user, but it would say your name. And we can see some of the details of the case here at the top. We can see some primary client information as well. So I know we have taken a lot of time on this, so I did want to just stop here and see if Christina wanted to talk about maybe some of the most common issues that she's seen and check in with Liz and Alicia here on time and if there were any questions in the chat.
Kelly, I believe too also best practice would be once you finish with the case as a DAT responder, go back under My Actions tab and just make sure that there's nothing there. It doesn't hurt for either one of the responders to go do that. You might have missed an approval. What I find when they call into the DAT hotline is a lot of times people just ask the responder if they've done that, and a lot of times that moves the case forward. For EFT, if you have any questions about those, a lot of times they didn't hit on, I think like Walmart is 11 character code. It'll be numbers and letters. That's an important, they need that along with their ID. And Leonard also discussed how their name had to match exactly and their date of birth. For Zelle, if they're not registered with Zelle with their bank, they will get an additional email to register with Zelle. And you touched on if they're in a negative balance with Zelle, even with PayPal, your account could be negative, and that money's going to go towards that negative balance and MasterCard. If you go to search for a case and that case is not populating, calling to the DAT hotline, most of the time that case has not gone all the way through, and so a new case will have to be created.
Perfect. So Liz, if there's nothing else, I'll turn it back over to you. I know we've gone a bit long, so I did want to be mindful of time.
Thank you, Kelly. We currently aren't able to see the chat. So I'm not sure we could do the second scenario. And if we can do that in the next 15, 20 minutes. And then what we can do is if folks have additional questions, they can send them to the DAT email and we will get back with every single one on those questions.
Sure. So I can certainly go and do our second scenario.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so next we're going to be doing a similar scenario, but maybe with some nuances there around the payment method or whether the client flew through that GIACT, that address verification. So Alan is once again going to play our very talented actor, and he is today going to be Miss Jane Smith. So hi, Miss Smith. My name's Kelly with the American Red Cross. Can you tell me what happened? Oh no, did we lose Alan?
It looks like he may have lost service.
Okay, well, we can roll through this a little bit. Christina, do you have the information up for Miss Jane Smith?
I do not have all of it, but I can.
Kelly, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks, Alan.
I was made unmuted. Okay. I'm Jane Smith. JaneSmith, like everybody.
And your birth date?
August 4th, 1972.
All right. And can you tell me what happened? I'm so sorry. I flew ahead.
Oh, it was just, I'm the only one that lives here with my dog Fluffy, and in this particular fire, I lost my cell phone and everything else, that goes with it. I don't have any family any longer, and no friends locally.
Oh.
I smelled smoke in the house, and I was leaving. I could not find my dog Fluffy. So I just got out because it was starting to get hot in there.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. And so
yeah, I really just don't know where Fluffy is right now.
Okay, I'm so sorry to hear that. And how are you doing? Would you like to speak to one of our disaster counselors a little bit later?
Yeah, that probably would be good. If I don't get to find Fluffy.
Okay. All right. We'll definitely check in on that and check on you. And could I get your zip code, please?
76051.
And your address?
1923 Lake Forest Road.
All right. And so, Ms. Smith, I'm just going to confirm all of that with you. So your first name is Jane, Jane, Smith, Smith. You were born August 4th, 1972, and your address is 1923 Lake Forest Road, Grapevine, Texas, 76051. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, and Jane, do you have email that you'd like to share with us for being able to contact you?
rccareuat@gmail.com.
Okay. And I know you said you lost your phone number, or you lost your phone in the fire, but do you have a phone number you could share with us?
919. No, wait, hold on. That's the wrong number. Sometimes my mind just goes. 172 223 4010.
Okay. And is that a mobile phone?
Yes.
All right. And it
burned up in the fire.
Absolutely understood. And so until you get your phone replaced, would you like us to email you to contact you?
Yes.
Correct. We'll do that. And so again, because I had used this client before, they do exist in the system, but for the purposes of this, we're gonna just we're gonna create a new client record. So Ms. Smith, I do have your phone number as 172-223-4010. Your email is rccareUat@gmail.com. Though your phone was lost in the fire, it is a mobile phone that can receive text messages and has internet. Is that all correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so if any of these events was accurate, we could select it, but we're going to create a new event. And Ms. Smith, the fire did occur today, correct?
That is true.
Okay. All right. And you said you lived alone. There were no other additional household members. Is that correct?
Yes. No. Nobody else. No family.
All right. And were you injured at all in the fire?
No, I was not.
That's good to hear. And so we'll follow up with you and just see if you'd like to speak to one of our disaster counselors, and I hope they do find Fluffy. All right, so again, at this point, if we were adding any items, if we were distributing a comfort kit, maybe if we handed out a blanket, we would document that here. And we don't want to reset the intake form, we want to proceed. And the nice thing here is that the GIACT identity check ran, and it did confirm Ms. Smith's ID and address for us. So we don't have to confirm those items. All we have to confirm is the damage. So for this scenario, we're going to say that one responder confirmed the damage, and we'll say one responder confirmed ID and address, though you'll see when we get to the next screen, we won't be asked to document their ID and address. If you'll remember, if we needed to confirm ID and address, we would have seen those two lines listed above, but because the system did it for us, for Ms. Smith, all we have to do is confirm the damage. So we'll say for this scenario that I spoke to Grapevine Fire Department Chief Towner, and she confirmed that this is going to be a total loss. The client will not be able to return. There was, very serious damage to all aspects of the structural components of the home. So since there was no second responder, since it was one responder confirming damage, I'm going to leave this blank, and I'm going to document how I confirmed the damage. And I added notes, but I still need to hit approve. So you'll see we got the success messages that the system did acknowledge that I approved. So we'll move on. The key thing to point out there is that because the client ID and address was confirmed by the system and one responder confirmed the damage, they will be eligible for provisional assistance, but they won't be eligible for any supplemental assistance until we do an event review. And so, Ms. Smith, do you speak any other languages in your household other than English?
No, just English.
Okay. And are you a veteran, active duty, retired?
No.
And do you have an alternate contact in case we're having trouble reaching you since your cell phone
No,
is?
don't really have any friends. I'm just stuck out here.
Okay, I'm so sorry to hear that. All right, and I'm gonna, just for the sake of time, I'm not gonna read through all of this again, but Ms. Smith, would you like to share your information generally?
Yes.
Okay, great. And can you please confirm for me that all of the information that you've provided up to now is true, complete, and accurate?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and do you accept financial assistance from the American Red Cross today?
Yes, I do.
All right, that's great. So we did process your qualifications for financial assistance, and you are eligible for $500 of immediate financial assistance that can be used to help you find a place to stay tonight if needed, help replace a few items, if you need to buy food or buy any immediate disaster-related needs. Those funds can be used for that. They cannot be used for alcohol, tobacco, or firearms.
I could really use it.
I'm glad to hear it. And so I know that you did have a smartphone, but I know that it was destroyed in the fire. So we do have electronic options available for funds, but they do require access to the internet or access to your smartphone. And so unless you have an alternate way of doing that, if none of that works, we can also provide, we call them client assistance cards. They're prepaid debit cards, and we can put those funds onto that prepaid debit card and deliver it to you either at your home, if that's where you still are, or we can meet you somewhere and deliver it.
Yeah, we're going to have to go that way because I'm going to need those funds to be able to purchase a new cell phone.
Okay, absolutely.
Kelly,
Yes.
at this point, could we just pause a moment? Sometimes you're not going to get those EFT options, and that's just because the EFT system, that client's not eligible for it. So if they're ever missing, that is why. And we would just provide a CAP card, a client assistance card for that client.
All right. And so let's say that I want to, I am not currently on scene. I'm doing all of this over the phone with Miss Smith, but I do have a CAC card here with me, and I'm going to deliver it to her. So I want to enter the CAC number since I've got it, and then I will, when I get to the scene and deliver the card, I will call the DAT intake hotline to load the funds. So I'm going to just double check myself that I typed this in correctly. 32600. Okay. So let's say that Ms. Smith and I arranged a place to meet, and I will submit the case. And I should still get that same summary screen that talks about, and I see that the CAC is issued. So that's great to hear. And so same thing, I may want to write down that case number so I can go in and write any case notes. So for example, I might want to say that Ms. Smith is concerned about Fluffy and a DMH referral will be made. We can document anything else that seems relevant. For example, like Ms. Smith's cell phone was destroyed, she's getting it replaced, does not currently have her cell phone. Important information that a caseworker would need for following up.
Wait a second, fire chief just came by.
Yes, sir.
Oh, they found Fluffy.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear.
Oh, she didn't make it.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Miss Smith.
That's all my support. That's all I have. She's
Oh,
gone
no.
now.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I know our pets are like family members, so we'll definitely have someone from our disaster counselors follow up with you, okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, and so thank you, Miss Smith, and thank you for your participation today. So for now, I will pause and see. Christina, did you have anything else related to the CAC payment option or related to One Red Cross responder that you wanted to point out as it relates to this case?
Not at this time.
Okay. Liz or Alicia, anything else you guys want to add about when we're responding with one responder or anything around the CAC cards?
Sorry about that. I was trying to get to the mute. But so I think that you covered it well. I know that as part of the rollout, there were some occasional kind of tips for DATs and other users. And one of those was dated December 22nd, and it's reminders about CACs and the use of runners for when you are needing to drop off the CAC. So you can kind of dig back into your information if you're not sure where to find that. You know, talk to your to your supervisor, to your someone on the rollout team, and they'll be able to make sure you get that. But essentially, it was just reminders about that issue and load funds and issue and don't load funds. So again, as was demonstrated, that when you're not going to immediately hand it to the client right at the time of intake, that you would select that issue but not load funds, and then make sure to enter that proxy number. I think one of the recommendations and best practices, and this could certainly look different depending on your region and your territory, is to have a clear process in place for ensuring that that someone who is going to be doing that drop off is identified and perhaps on call, since as you've seen, you're not going to know until late in the intake process whether the CAC is going to be the payment method. So again, kind of having that coordinated in advance is going to help really smooth and facilitate that process and making sure we get that timely assistance to the client. You may have your DAT duty officer or helps to facilitate that interaction, or someone else. I think those are kind of the main things. I'll turn it over to Leonard and see, and Liz, and see if they have anything they'd like to add.
Yeah, nothing to add from me.
I would just add, I'm looking for the slide deck. I'm not sure what happened, but Kelly, if you just saw, Kelly went back into the case and checked that virtual response box. Just a reminder that we are still operating virtually, and you have to go back into the case at this time to check that. So make sure that that's on your list to do as well when you make those case comments for your follow-up casework, that you're checking that virtual response box. Can we go to slide 22, please? So here are just some additional resources and some additional things you can do to be better prepared as you continue to work with RC Care in your role, whether it's a caseworker or IDC or a DAT worker. We have updated the documenting the DDA intake video. Thank you to Kelly Farrell for that. So that's available. That encompasses new changes that were made within RC Care. And to Alicia's point, again, you want to understand who your lifeline is, right? Who your support is when you're out there at 2 o'clock in the morning and case may get hung up, or you're not sure what to do. Who would you contact within that your region that can help you? And again, you do have that intake hotline for those intake issues that you may come across. And we apologize with the live teams today. We weren't able to do the chat to get your questions. And again, if you would like to, at the end of the presentation, there'll be the DAT email. If you want to send us an email, we'll do our best to answer your questions. And And again, I'm going to turn it back to my boss, Alicia, to see if she has any final comments or anything else we might be able to show. We do have a few extra minutes, but of course, we don't have to use that time if we were hoping to have questions, and that's why we have that extra time. But Alicia, any final comments or anything else you'd like to show or share with our group today?
Yeah, thanks, Liz, and thanks so much, Kelly and Alan and Christina for your support in kind of making this possible and doing the role plays for us today. Christina, I'm wondering if there's anything that you would like to add in terms of just any of the other reminders that we haven't touched on already.
No, I think this was a really good session. Just remember that the DAT hotline, we're there for you, and we can help you before you create a case, and we can help you after you create a case. But while you're creating a case, our hands are pretty tied.
Thank you, Christina. Leonard, anything else you'd like to add for today?
No, just to echo, great job by the presenters. I'm glad, it looks like we had a ton of participants, which is very, very exciting. I think what I would offer this afternoon is to just slow down and take your time. This isn't a rush. You can, we're not measuring how much time it takes to open up a case, and you don't have to rush through it. It's okay to just take your time and pause and ask a lot of those clarifying questions that Kelly did a great job kind of walking through, and repeat information back just like you would do if you were providing your information. So it's okay to slow down, take your time. There's plenty of opportunities to confirm and go back and edit before you get to a certain point in the case. So that's what I would offer, is just take your time with it. It's not a rush, and you'll just walk right through the process. So other than that, just thank everyone for participating today.
Leonard, would you like to talk about our next in the series of office hours?
Yeah, I would love to. So we're going to do this again, gang. I don't know. We've got some Emmy Award nominees here. We may tap them on the shoulder to continue this. We may get a new troupe of actors. We'll see. But we're going to do another session of office hours. We're basically going to pick up these cases, right after intake. So really picking it up from that follow-up and then moving through recovery planning. So look for the similar format, but just taking this case from where it hits follow-up, and then we'll show it through recovery planning. We'll introduce some of the IDC components of that, because as we saw today, we've got a couple of IDC follow-up issues. So we're gonna focus in on that on the next session in the series here. So by the end of this, we may have a regular old Red Cross soap opera. Who knows? But yeah, look forward to that scheduler. It should be pretty quick. Within like next week or something, we should have this teed up and ready to go for you to take you through the next journey of the case from follow-up through recovery planning.
Wow, that's great. Thanks, Leonard, for that preview of what's coming next. With that, I'm going to just turn it back over to Liz, who started us out for closing us out for today.
Thank you, Alicia. Again, everyone, thank you for everything you do. I hope you found this presentation role play helpful. We continue to seek your feedback and any information you'd like to share with us, and in order that we can better support you out there in the field, because you're doing the hard work out there, and we're so grateful for that. And I just know, looking at the numbers of cases we opened and clients we've helped, we are doing awesome work out there. And we are, as a team, so grateful to you for doing that. And I wish you all the best this week, and stay tuned for casework follow-up. It should be fun. Thank you, everyone.
Liz, can I make a statement?
Sure, Alan. Yeah, anybody. Yep.
In CAS 2.0, when we wrote the narrative, we put all the notes in there that could help our casework team out. You need to do the same thing when you get over to do the casework note as part of searching for the case and putting in your virtual response. Put all of those items, who's the landlords, and do you have caseworkers through social services? All those kinds of things should go there. That's my comment.
Thank you, Alan. A reminder, anything that would be helpful to that caseworker as they make that follow-up contact to the client. Again, you don't have to write a complete narrative, but if anything that would be of help to that caseworker would be appreciated. So again, thank you everyone for your time, and have a great day.